Nope, it won't work. Not gonna work.
Wait, what's this? All right, well. All right. All right, Hill.
Sorry about that. We were trying to switch my phone to be able to go horizontal like we do for our normal videos, but we're not sure how to switch that. So if anybody knows and is watching, or you come on eventually, let us know if you know.
What's this one?
Because yeah, we've not done this before, so it's all new to us. It said something about changing the rotation of your, or something about how, when you go live. So not sure how to do that. Let's go like that though. Maybe we'll figure it out while we're talking to you, and we'll be able to turn the phone around. But if we can't, that's okay too. So yeah, as you tune in, if you're able to tune in, or you're watching this later, you're gonna have to let us know what you're currently reading, what you've read recently and enjoyed, and we're gonna just do this like we normally do. I'm kind of bummed about this setup though, because we're not really in the screen as well. But such is life. Yeah, we would have probably had to mess with the settings before we went live. It won't let us. Nope.
Orientation is locked. Oh man. Well, that is all right. So how are we doing?
Well, we'll know for next time. But yeah, if you just got on here, let me know in the comments if you know how to change the orientation of your live videos, that maybe we can switch it while we're going live. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just gonna have to deal with us this way.
And if someone could answer in the chat too, if you can hear us all right, that would be great. Just so we know that you can hear what we're saying.
That's good too.
And not just looking at us moving our mouths.
Corey's gonna try to keep up with the chat on our laptop as we are using my phone. So at this point, I'm thinking we should have used my laptop to do this, since we're not able to turn my phone sideways right now. But anyway, you normally ask what we're drinking.
Let's start with the introduction here.
We got thrown for a loop with just the way that my phone is placed.
Welcome to Let's Talk Books Unscripted.
Yep, this is very unscripted.
So we are drinking spicy margaritas.
Yep, we have not tried sips of it yet, so we're trying them here with you. Let us know what you are drinking, if you're drinking anything, or if you're snacking on something, and we'll let you know how this tastes. That is good and spicy. Oh, somebody said good morning. It's morning where you are? Hi. Right. You're drinking water. Awesome.
All right.
Way to stay hydrated.
Well, I'm glad you can hear us. That's great. All right. Nicole's got her dinner and excited to be here.
Hey, Nicole.
And inside Lauren's brain said, I just had ribs and potatoes. Ooh.
Oh, hello from Germany.
Well, thank you. Wow, we got 33 people watching. That's great.
Awesome. You should try to check over there. We're like leaning in so we can see the comments. We wanted to be close, but not too close either. Not too up in your space. Yeah. We wish we could see all of your faces, but at least we can see everybody tuning in, so that's fun as well. Okay, let's. We have some interesting comments too.
Thank you.
Let's get going. Okay. Oh, just had a Cheetos burger. Nice. I've never heard of that from the UK.
Sounds amazing. Okay. So we're gonna dig in. We're gonna have a pretty normal episode here. We're gonna talk about the books we finished. I think I finished 2 books from our last episode, which is pretty good for me.
I finished probably 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I don't know. I lose count sometimes. But the 2 that I wanted to talk about, and I'll still talk about them, but I can't show them because one got returned to the library and one I'm lending to my sister-in-law. But I will still talk about them. And then we'll talk about ones we're currently reading and go from there.
What did you think of the drink? Was it spicy?
It is pretty spicy, yes. because there's like quite a few slices of jalapeno in here. If you're just signing on, we're having spicy margaritas. They're really good. Of course, regular margaritas are good as well, but this sounded good to us.
It's pretty much a spicy margarita, but with jalapenos.
I mean a regular margarita, but with jalapenos.
Yes, exactly. That's what I meant to say, right?
Do you use Kindle? Are you asking us or somebody else in the comments, Brendan? No, we do not have a Kindle. I would like to have a Kindle, but
She wants to have one. We're still debating getting one.
We'll see, because I do. That is spicy. I like to read advanced copies of books. I do need a drink. That is kind of spicy.
There's like a whole jalapeno in there.
So you're experiencing this right with me.
All right. Someone asked if we read Stephen King, and I'm going to get to that later on.
Yeah.
So I haven't yet, but I'm starting my first Stephen King book. Hopefully soon. I'm going to announce that pretty soon here. Hi from India. Hello. Someone say I look like their dad. Well, that's cool. Your dad's a good-looking guy.
Like the boy on the left. The pickle jar. Okay, I don't know about a pickle jar.
But thank you, yes.
Okay, so the books. Do you want to talk about the couple books that you finished recently?
Yes.
Okay.
So I finished 2 books. We did our last double tap. Okay.
It's for other people to do it for us.
Okay. That'd be great. All right, so I finished 2 books, and the first one I finished is this book here, Freeze Frame, by Tyler Beauchamp. Now, Tyler's been a fan of ours on Instagram for a while, and he sent us out this book. He even did a little inscription side, which is pretty cool. This is a YA book. It follows a guy named Will. He is kind of going to a new high school, and he's 16 years old. And he left his old school because something happened kind of traumatically at his old school. So he has to go to a new school. And right off the bat, he meets a new group of friends who really take him in. And they kind of accept him for what happened at his old school, which is kind of cool because he was worried about going to the new school. So they accepted him right away, and they want him to make a video with them. So Will's passion is filming videos, and he really enjoys that. But his dad thought that him making videos was making him have these weird episodes. So he had these episodes because in his past he had something traumatic happen, so he suffers from PTSD. And kind of filming this video really kind of brings him back to earth, and it's really a book about friendship and passion. Really good YA book. I loved it a lot more than I thought I was going to love it. So, really cool book. Definitely check it out. Pretty short, not too long. Pretty quick to go through, but really well written. And I thought Tyler did a great job writing this book. I've already given him my review, and he was pretty thrilled about the review I gave.
All right, I'll do one. Oh, yeah, I can't show you. Sorry. But I read Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. So if we have any Riley Sager fans in the house, comment below. It was my 3rd book by him. It was my least favorite so far, unfortunately. I think Corey maybe uploaded my review on here. So if you haven't checked that out yet, you can do that. But yeah, I don't know that I had necessarily high hopes for it because I had heard some mixed reviews. So I wasn't necessarily like super disappointed. But I had liked the first 2 I read by him way more. But hey, he's got lots more that I can choose from, so I'm still excited to read more from him. I just felt like it was a bit slow, it took a while for like things to really happen, I guess. I felt like there were a lot of characters, maybe more characters than there needed to be, and it didn't really scare me. Like I was just kind of like, meh. So that's just kind of how I felt about it. It wasn't a bad book. It's just not one, it wouldn't be like, if you were to ask me which Riley Sager book to start with, I wouldn't say that one. And then I also finished Primetime Romance by Kate Robb. It was a very cute, feel-good rom-com with a magical realism element. I've really been into magical realism lately. So I very much enjoyed it. It actually is not even officially out yet, so it publishes on September 3rd, but I was lucky enough to get an advanced free copy from the publisher, so I'm really grateful for that. It's awesome when I can get to read books ahead of their publishing dates. So read that one. I think I finished an audiobook as well. But yeah, I've always got audiobooks going, physical books going, all the books.
Yeah, a couple of comments in that saying that they've heard a lot of mixed reviews about Riley Sager. And so
in
have
general.
we.
Okay.
Yeah, we've heard he's kind of hit or miss. You either love his books or they're kind of not what you expected or not.
Just that you don't love them all.
Yeah.
I feel like there are certain authors where I will literally read their grocery list. Like, that's how much I love them, and they don't write a bad book. But then sometimes you can be a fan of an author, because I am a fan of his. I've liked 2 out of the 3 I've read so far, so that's good. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to like every single thing he writes, unfortunately. So I just feel like his newest one fell flat for me. And especially coming off of reading The Only One Left, which I highly, highly recommend. That was his new book last year. So that was still a pretty recent book for him. And I liked it way more in the middle of the night. So it's just everybody's, everybody has different tastes too. And maybe you like a slow burn thriller. I don't like a slow burn anything most of the time.
She really doesn't.
I really don't.
Not a fan.
When it comes to rom-coms too, it's not like I won't read them, but they're hard for me. And I think it bothers me more with a thriller even than with a rom-com, because like I want a thriller to like get me immediately, like on that first page, and I want it to be more fast-paced and less character development, because I'm kind of like, it's a thriller. Like, I mean, yeah, if I'm reading a contemporary fiction novel or a rom-com or whatever, like, yeah, I want there to be good character development, but sometimes I don't really care. I just want to know why somebody died, who killed them, and like let's keep going. Like that's how I like my thrillers most of the time. Okay. Oh, Nicole, slow burn just doesn't hold my interest. Yep. John Marr's books have a plot twist every 50 pages. I like that.
Yeah, I've been looking at some John Marr's books. I haven't read any yet, but he's on my radar for sure. So a book I finished last night actually, is this book, Middle Tide, by Sarah Crouch. This is from Book of the Month Club. I gotta say, I loved this book until the last 20%. I was really feeling it. I would say this as a slow burn. It is a mystery, not a thriller. So a lot of the story is more backstory, which is good. I liked it. But I actually predicted the mystery of this book, which is a first for me because I usually am way off. So I ended up predicting what was going to happen, which is fine. But that just means it maybe wasn't as suspenseful as I thought it'd be at the ending. And the ending ends with this big, like, kind of lawyer case, and they're in a courtroom and kind of going over is he guilty, is he not guilty. So it was good. I don't know. I'm really torn on it. And I made the mistake of, after I finished it, I looked at some of the reviews on Goodreads, and I think some of the reviews kind of hurt my opinion of it. So maybe I shouldn't do that anymore, but I always like to look at the reviews on Goodreads, especially like the 1-star ratings.
It's better to do it after though than before, because then at least you still read the book.
Because I really did like it, but the ending was just not good enough, I think, for me. But beautiful writing. It takes place in the Pacific Northwest in Washington, which was kind of nice, because they call it an atmospheric mystery. And really the scenery, you could visualize like the scene. It's in a small town in Washington. There's a big lake. A lot of people compared this book to Where the Crawdads Sing. And I didn't really pick up on that until after I read those reviews. And I was like, okay.
But you haven't read that book.
I didn't read the book,
so I've read that one.
I did watch the movie.
You did watch the movie, yes.
So I didn't really pick up on that, but a lot of people are saying if you liked Where the Crawdads Sing, this would be a good one. It's similar, but definitely slower. It really focused on backstory, but I thought it was really well written, and I did enjoy it. I wish the ending was a little more grand and suspenseful, but it's a mystery, and it definitely kept my attention for most of the book. And I did give it, if I did give it a star rating on Goodreads, I gave it a 4 star, so that's not bad for me. But I'm a very generous reviewer because I love all books.
He's probably even more generous than I am. I get teased a lot. I feel like, because I have 2 book clubs now, which is exciting. But especially in my in-person book club, I get teased for being like, super generous. But yeah, I feel like I read for entertainment mostly. And so I'm not looking for, a groundbreaking book most of the time. Like, I feel like that's the same for me when I watch movies. I'm not like always wanting to watch an Oscar-worthy film. Sometimes it's just for fun, and you just eat it up for what it is. Nicole, I like that. I have not seen that floating around on Instagram, but I do like that. Nicole said predictable doesn't mean bad. And no, it doesn't.
Oh no.
But I do like it when I can't guess things. I feel like that's just my preference. Like, I don't know, where like there's a lot of big twists and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
that was just the first time for me that I kind of picked up on what was going to happen, and it did end up happening. 'Cause in
Yeah.
previous books, I have my guesses, and then I'm way off. So that was the first time it's happened for me, but still, it was good.
Hi, Sally. Thanks for tuning in.
Just finished here in Phoenix. Oh yeah, you live in
Dinner.
Phoenix.
Yeah. What did you have for dinner? Let us know. And Tailor Made, I don't, maybe I've heard of that one. I've definitely heard of The Inmate by Frida McFadden. Is it your first book by her, or have you read others by her? I have not yet, and I've had The Housemaid on my, well, not my bookshelf, I can't even say my bookshelf, on my nightstand, because normally I move like ones that are pretty immediate, like that I'm going to start next on my nightstand. And it's not that I don't want to read it. I've heard mostly excellent things by it. But also I think I am a little afraid to read it because it's been hyped so much that I'm like, what if I don't like it as much as everybody? That's normally not the case for me. I typically like hyped books. But yeah, I just keep putting other books in front of it for some reason. But I do plan on reading it ASAP because I've heard at least the second one maybe in the series, or maybe the most recent one was really good too. So yeah, let me know what you feel about Frida McFadden. Others who have read her too.
We got a recommendation from DMC Enjoyer. He said you should read Kentaro Miura's Berserk. Okay. He died back in 2021. He ended up making a masterpiece of a story. Ooh.
Okay.
Interesting. We'll have to look that up. Yeah.
That one.
Where are you from? That's a good recommendation. Thank you. Do you have any more books to talk about?
Oh my gosh, yes. Do I?
Well, that you finished.
A whole lap full. No, not ones that I finished. But I will definitely talk about the ones that I'm reading.
The current
which
reads.
is actually my entire lap full.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
We've discussed this in previous episodes that I may or may not be slightly unhinged with the amount of books that I read, but I just can't help myself. And this isn't even including a couple that I'm reading on my phone, because I said earlier I do not have a Kindle yet. So maybe if I say it enough times, Mr. Corey over here will let me get one eventually. But I don't like reading on my phone, but it is what it is. And I've been really lucky to get physical arcs. I don't get as many as I'd like. So then when I do have the opportunity to still read something ahead of pub date, I'll say like, okay, like I'll read it on my phone. And that's okay. But yeah, my biggest, I prefer reading physical books as much as I can. And then I have audiobooks going too. So that this is excluding those things, but this is what I've got going on physically. I guess I'll start with the one that's on top. It's my most recent one that I started because I'm not very far in. I think I'm only like 3 chapters in. This is The Love of My Afterlife. Again, I'm super into magical realism. So this is another one of those. And it's gotten a lot of buzz. I feel like I've only maybe seen one somewhat negative review where it didn't like live up to the hype for this particular person, but otherwise I've been seeing lots of rave reviews on it. I mean, look at how fun the cover is too. I mean, we're almost to fall, at least in my mind, even though we have like a little less than a month until the calendar tells us it's fall, but in my mind, typically September 1st means fall. So I don't know if I can hurry this up and read it before we hit September 1st, because then I'm going to be like almost 100% in fall mode, but this just screams summer to me, just with like the bright colors and stuff. But quick synopsis on this one is this woman dies, no spoiler alert because it happens like right away in the book. She chokes on a burger, I think is what it is, and she ends up in this like in-between afterlife or whatever, and she meets a guy like pretty soon at the beginning of the book, and then we'll kind of see what happens from there. But it already like has some humor to it. I was already laughing. I mean, it's not funny like somebody dying, but just the way in which this author writes, I feel like it's going to be like really quirky and fun and also heartfelt. So I'm really excited to get further into it, and then I'll be able to share a review with you. So, all right. Do you want to talk about one? Okay.
Yeah. So
Do you have any more comments?
Cool.
Oh,
so now
big
that
Frida fan here. Cool. Okay. Awesome. What other books have you read by her, Sally? And we'll try to keep checking so that I can see what you say after a few minutes here.
So a book that Katie and I are both reading, she's listening to an audio, and we talked about last episode, I'm reading the physical book, is this memoir called Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. I think Katie's gotten a little further than I am, because I was focusing on those other 2 books, but now this is going to be my main priority to finish this one as fast as I can.
It's a race.
It's a race.
I'm
But
winning.
she listens to
Because I'm
audiobooks
listening
at
to it at 1.75 speed.
like a chipmunk is reading
You
it.
should also answer us if you listen to audiobooks. What speed do you prefer?
I know.
Are you a crazy person like me, or do you read at normal speed?
Having normal speed. But this is such an excellent book. I mean, it is so good. I'm sure you've heard of it. A lot of people talk about it. It is a really, really good story. And it is sad. It's really about her mom passing away and the relationship they had with food. I mean, it focuses a lot on eating and just kind of how their family was centered around food. And they would go shopping at this place called H Mart, which is a big Asian market, and they would just cook. But now that her mom passed away, she's starting to pursue her career in music. You may have heard of her. Her artist name is Japanese Breakfast, but really, really good story. It is a devastating story. It does have crying in the title, so I heard someone say that in their podcast. It's like, it has crying in the title, so
you're gonna probably cry.
you know it's gonna be sad,
It's
and we're
pretty
both
sad.
really liking it. So
But it is really sad.
I want us to finish it up so we can talk about it and do like our formal joint review on it. But really, really good book. And this is my first memoir. If you're not into memoirs yet, I would check this one out first because it reads so much
Almost reads like a novel.
a great novel, and the characters, it's just really, really well. So
I love your answers for audiobooks. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, I can't do beyond 2. I was telling Corey last night that I've cranked it up to 2 before when like my book is going to be returned to Libby, because I do my audiobooks on Libby through my library. So if anybody does that, let me know. But yeah, I use Libby and Hoopla, which are wonderful apps because then I can listen for free. But when they're about ready to be returned, you're like, oh, you only have such and such amount of time. I'll be like, oh, better crank that up if I don't want to have to like wait a long time to get the audio back. But no, typically my sweet spot is between like 1.5 and 1.75. Never Lie for Sally was my first. I loved it. Also read the Housemaid trilogy. Okay.
Yeah. What was your recommendation, Lauren? Inside Lauren's Brain. I think I did miss that.
Okay.
Brendan said he likes the cover and he loves Libby.
Libby is
Thanks,
great.
Brendan.
Yes.
Yeah. This is a great book if you need a memoir.
And and speaking of audiobooks, I mean, I like eat memoirs up like crazy on audio. And especially, I mean, it's a bonus if the author reads it themselves. So yes, for this particular one, she is reading it, and I love listening to her voice because it's her story, and it just like gives, just a different experience. I mean, I'd even encourage you to go back. I know you're already like physically reading it, but to like eventually go back and listen to it on audio too, because I just think like that sometimes adds value to a book to do it that way.
Nobody can read your own story like you. So
Yes, Nicole. Yep, Hoopla too. I find more success on Libby overall, I guess, through my particular library with what I'm looking for and what's available. Granted, sometimes my wait times are long, but it's almost like where I'll look for a particular book on Hoopla and it won't be on there at all. So it's like, I guess I just have to wait, for Libby. But I have found some good ones on Hoopla that I maybe didn't have to wait for at all. So let's see, what else?
what's next for you on your currently reading?
My currently reading
stack.
This one is I Was a Teenage Slasher. I've actually never read a slasher book before, so this is a first for me. It's from Aardvark, my favorite book subscription. You've heard us talk about it quite a bit, and now I've got Corey as a fan too. He's read a couple Aardvark books. I think he wants to read this one eventually, so this will be one we can talk about. And this author, Stephen Graham Jones, has a ton of books, by the way. I had never even heard of him. So that's another thing I love about Aardvark that I mentioned before, is that there's so many books that I probably wouldn't have even, haven't heard of, or wouldn't have even maybe picked up if it weren't for the book subscription being like, here are our choices for the month. So it's really like broadened my horizons with like my own reading preferences and stuff like that. So that's been really fun. This book was like a little slow in the first, like, I don't know, I can't even say chapters because you guys are gonna laugh because I've talked about this before that or if you're new here, you haven't heard me talk about this before, but I love short chapters. These are not short chapters. When I started flipping through this because I was gonna start it, like however many nights ago, I look at Corey and I'm like, you've gotta be kidding me. You have to be kidding me. The first chapter, I'm not joking, is over 60 pages long. 60, not 16. And so it's funny because it's not like the short chapters are gonna make this book like it's like shorter or longer. It's the same. It's like, I don't even know how many pages this is. 300 some, which is a pretty average, book for me. But for some reason, it feels longer when the chapters are so long, and then I don't have like a good stopping point. So I'm like, I'm just gonna have to deal. But no, I'm liking the story enough that I'm finding like good little like spots. Like how some books have like something like you can kind of see those little dots right there. I'm like, okay, that'll work for like a stopping point for me. So that's what I've been doing because sometimes I don't have time to sit down and read 60 to 80 pages like in one sitting. We have 3 young children, so that's not always an option. At nighttime, I get more uninterrupted reading time. But yeah, I'm into it. It's told from the perspective of our teenage slasher here, so it's kind of interesting to be inside his head. But yeah, already pretty gruesome, violent, as you would expect. But it's almost like kind of, I don't want to say funny, but like it's just interesting to hear it from his point of view. So if you're into creepy, but almost slightly humorous slasher books, then try this one out.
It's like a 90s slasher
90s,
movie.
It takes place in 1989,
okay.
So almost the 90s, and then he's kind of like looking back on that particular year. Mm-hmm. So it kind of goes back and forth a little, like in the way that he's writing it or talking about it.
I wanted to get a recommendation that someone gave us from
Okay.
Inside Lauren's brain. She said Clara and the Sun. It's one of my all-time favorites. Oh, awesome. Mm-hmm. Who's the author of that book? I've not heard of it. Have you? Mm-mm. Well, if it's your favorite, it must be good.
And then Sally, you said you can't get into audiobooks. I hear you. It took me a little while to get into. You haven't tried, so you don't know for sure.
I can't get into them because I haven't tried.
You listen to podcasts, so I mean, it's really similar. I don't know, but
that's true. I could get into them.
But no, I get it. Because I thought for a little while I wouldn't be able to focus either. And that is why I choose to listen to nonfiction almost exclusively on audio. I do fiction, it just depends on the book. And I've enjoyed some fiction on audio. But typically I prefer nonfiction. And it's not because I'm saying that I can just not pay attention while I'm listening to it. But like with a nonfiction book, you're still getting the gist of, the topic and everything, even if like you do happen to tune out for a few words, a few sentences or something like that, or you miss it for whatever reason. Versus if you're reading a fiction book and it's like, you're going to miss something that's like very pertinent to the plot. That's why sometimes I don't like to listen to them on audio because I get what you're saying. Mm-hmm. But I feel like when I'm doing mindless tasks and stuff like that, like, or if I just go on a walk by myself, then like all I have is my audiobook and I'm definitely listening to like the words that are going into my ears. So I don't know, maybe give it a try at some point and maybe you still won't enjoy it and that's okay because we all get to enjoy books the way that we want to. And I for sure enjoy physical books more than any other way to consume books. Yeah. Mary, what did Mary say? Go back up. Can't wait to hear what you think about Teenage Slasher. I have that one on hold. Yeah, I'll hopefully have a review for you soon enough if I can get through the really long chapters. Oh, Nicole. He's a Native American author. I don't know that I knew that. Does he mention his heritage at all in that one? I know he does in his other books. That's really cool that you've read other books by him. Yeah, he has like a ton. I opened up the inside flap of this one, and I don't even know how many it was. It was a lot.
Yeah. Brendan said he does a lot of nonfiction on audio, and that's mostly her too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like I would as well, but who's to say?
Oh, and sorry, Nicole, no, I don't think there's been any mention of that yet, but maybe as the book gets further in. So
okay.
Yeah.
And Lauren said the author. I cannot pronounce that name.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that. We'll look into that book for you. I want to look into it since it's your favorite book. That means it must be pretty good.
Yeah.
If that's your favorite book, I'd love to hear that.
You need to
Yeah. So
share another one.
What's
you're
next
reading?
on my reading list is one I've shared with that I just haven't been reading, and it's not because I don't like it. It's just because
you're prioritizing other books right now.
I am losing my steam with the romantic comedies for some reason.
Steam. That's funny.
That was not intentional.
You didn't do that intentionally.
But this one is a little steamier, I gotta say. So this is Rent to Be. So this is a fake dating trope, kind of like what you think it would be about. I mean, she ends up staying at her boss's house and kind of rents it out, and her and her brother's friend have to pretend to be together so that they can fool her parents into thinking that she's not homeless. So it's got this whole thing going. I'm really liking it so far, but I have not been reading it recently. So I hope I get back into this one. But I can tell it's gonna be a little spicier than kind of like the margarita. You
might be blushing too much.
Then I'm usually into, but that is all right.
Oh, okay. So you haven't read any of his other books yet. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into more of his books because I'm definitely curious with how many that he apparently has, and I had no idea. So yeah, another one that I am reading that I'm not like super far into, and I did start it on my phone, but I was so excited to get the physical copy of it. So this is from an indie author. She just has one other book, I believe, and this is her second one. This is a closed door, second chance romance. So if you don't prefer steamy scenes and spice, this would be a good option because it is closed door. And it's very lovely so far. It has like a bunch of letters in it, as you can tell on the front. It's got oopsies.
No.
I just scared the crap out of one of our dogs too. Dropped a book. Scared the dog.
Luckily, it's a hardcover.
Sorry. Yeah, the book is fine. Thank heavens. I don't know about my dog, but you might want to check on her. At least she can hear. She is going to be. How old is she going to be in November? 13.
Yeah.
So she's getting up there. But anyway, you can see on here. That's what I was trying to do. The envelope with the letters sticking out. So yeah, it's about this couple who meet in high school. It's like high school sweethearts. I won't tell you what happens, but something happens in their relationship. They move on, but it's one of those books where I think they keep coming back to each other is kind of what it seems like, and they're clearly meant to be. So it's kind of like a sweeping romance, and there are some letters back and forth between the two of them. I'm coming up on them. That'll be the next part in the book, where there'll be a lot of back and forth between them. So I'm excited to read that. And it is told in dual perspectives too. So it'll kind of say up at the top of the chapter, who's talking. I love that, by the way. Is that something you love or don't love in a book? If you only like one narrator, if you like multiple or just dual, just still multiple, but you know what I mean. Sometimes you get books where it's tons of different characters in chapters telling the story. But yeah, I think I'm going to love this one overall. And yeah, the author sent me her PR box. So it came with the book, but also some really fun goodies as well. So yeah, I've been able to advertise for it. It does not release, I believe, until September 10th. So I'm hoping to have it done by the published date or shortly thereafter so I can get my review shared for this one. But it's called All In by Elaine Evans.
All right. One and only Izzy said, your channel is so underrated. I love your content. Well, thank you. That is very nice. And she also said she recommended a book. It's If We Were Villains. And I have heard a lot of people talk about that one. It has some theater moments and something a little deeper in it. Yeah, I have heard good things about it. I actually just heard someone talk about that book today. Someone I follow.
Cool.
I have some people I follow as well.
What is it called?
If We Were Villains.
Oh. Nice.
Yeah. Brendan asks, how many books do you usually have in progress at a time? For me, it's 4. 3 or 4. For her, it is
the limit does not exist.
Infinity.
Well, I did just show you 5 physical books, so that's probably average for physical books. I would say anywhere between 4 and 5 physical, and then it was recently that I started reading books on my phone. So right now I've got 2 going on there, and I've got like 2 audiobooks. So I guess do the math. That's a lot.
Brendan laughed at that. That was
It's 9.
It is funny, so I don't disagree. Yeah.
It's a little out of
Yeah.
hand.
Inside Lauren's brain gave us a couple new recommendations to look into as well. Thank you. Yeah, we love to look into books, so any recommendations are always welcome because there's so many books. And we want recommendations just like everyone else has recommendations. There's people we watch on YouTube and Instagram
Yep.
for recommendations.
Just keep adding to that TBR. I see so many people post, and I can completely relate. Is like my TBR is gonna like outlive me, and it's true. Like seriously.
Well, that
I will not be able to physically read every single book that I
yeah.
have or keep adding.
Yeah, Nicole asked, how do we keep track of all the plots and characters?
Okay.
She can
So
usually
you can do like one from
one physical, one audio.
Yeah.
Different genres.
Different genres. That's for me too, because I know I have so many books, but I guess to me they're still different enough. I mean, think about all the different genres there are. There really are a lot, or like little sub-genres. So for example, I've been reading All In, the one I just showed you, and then I just finished Primetime Romance. So that's like 2 romances, but All In is more just plain romance, contemporary romance, I guess you would call it. And I mean, I guess Primetime Romance is contemporary as well, but it was more on like the funny side. So it was like a rom-com. So that's how I can read 2 in the same genre or similar, but they're still different enough, if that makes sense. And then, like I said, a lot of the time my audiobooks are nonfiction. So to me, that seems easy enough, because you're hearing about somebody's life or, about a particular topic or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, Sally said she'd only do 2 at a time too.
Okay.
She said your memory capacity is crazy, which that's true.
I do have, I've been told that by friends and family that I do remember things, pretty well. I even remember things that I don't plan to remember. I'm pretty good with dates. I'll remember people's anniversaries or their birthdays or whatever. It just gets logged in there. And we always laugh because we feel like our son is taking after me with that. He's obsessed with people in our family, their birthdays and stuff. And he has impressed many of our family members when he can just rattle off even my grandma, who is his great grandma, and he sees her a fair amount. We're blessed to see her as much as we do, but she lives in Iowa, which is 4 hours away from where we live. But he knows when her birthday is, and so yeah, kind of cool.
Yeah. Angie said she can only do 2 or 3.
Okay, so I'm legit the crazy person here, is what it kind of seems like.
I mean, it is, but yeah.
I don't know. It's I'm a mood reader though. So to me, I have to have options. I feel like I can't just stick to 1 or 2. And it's not because I'm not liking it. It's just that my particular mood might dictate something else in that moment. So I need to have other options, I guess, is the way I see it.
That's true. But
I don't know.
You'll generally
I do
fixate on 1 or 2 main ones.
You can tell, when I'm okay, that's the one she's majorly actively reading.
You'll generally gravitate towards the best ones, and that's how I do it too. So you want,
Right, so I'm still actively reading the other ones.
You might not be reading
as much.
As...
Yeah, as 1 or 2
you're
that
always
I really start to gravitate towards.
You're always going to pick up the best ones. So I shared the 2 I'm currently reading, and I finished 2. So to keep up with my 4, I am going to start 2 new books. I'm going to show you those 2 books, what they're going to be. I have talked about them in previous episodes, so it might not be a surprise to some of you. But the first one is The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. So this book is terrifying to me because it's so thick. This will be the longest book I've ever read. But I heard nothing but amazing things about this book. It's about 850 pages. So she has this book and another well-known book, The Secret History, which I have in my Amazon cart right now that I just need to press the buy on. But I'm scared to do it.
I'm going to buy everything else that I have in there too, so
But
some other books in there.
I'm going to be starting this book soon. I heard it is so well written, and I've heard nothing but great things. Donna Tartt, I heard, is just a brilliant storyteller and just brilliant. So I'm going to start on that soon. So we'll see how it goes. I like big books, and I cannot lie. That is good. That is a good. I will see.
I have a sticker that I'm giving away right now on Instagram, by the way. If you follow us on Instagram, there's a sticker that says that. I like big books, and I cannot lie.
That's funny. So if you read this one, let me know. I know a lot of people have, but it is intimidating to me, but I think I'm going to go through it pretty fast. Because this one's been on my radar for a while. I think I brought it up like 5 episodes ago that I wanted to read it, but now's the time
Oh, he's going to do it. He's gonna try.
start it. So we'll see some progress next week.
Oh, thank you. One of our favorite accounts.
Well, that's great.
Thanks, Lauren.
I appreciate you saying that.
Sally, I've read the entire Outlander series, and some of those were 1,300 pages. Wow, yeah. And I know Sally, we talked back and forth a little bit on one of my reels on Instagram that the Bible is the longest book I've ever read. And that one is over 1,000 pages, but of course I broke it up over an entire year. So that's quite the undertaking. But yeah, as far as like fiction books, yeah, haven't tackled anything like crazy.
They're intimidating, but I've heard they don't seem as like when it's that good of a book, they don't seem as long, and the pace is really good. Where you're not going to be intimidated by the length, and you probably won't want it to end.
1,300. Wow. Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Angie said it was one of her favorites. Yeah. Yes, I've heard that from a lot of people. So.
What's the longest book you've ever read, Brendan? I had like I was saying to Sally, I had a reel on Instagram asking people what their longest book was. And the ones I shared in mine were Iron Flame, so the second one in the Empyrean series. If you have read Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, which of course she has her third book coming out in January. And then, the Bible, that's what I said. But other than that, I have read, slightly, I would say like close to that. I feel like Fourth Wing wasn't as long as Iron Flame, but that was still a pretty long book for me. Because normally my sweet spot is like anywhere between 300 and 400 pages.
300 is...
That's what I prefer. And when I get one that's less than 300 and it's right around that like between like 260 and 300, that's like a nice little surprise. Like, oh, that'll be a nice quick book for me.
Like short chapters too.
And then the short chapters. Yep.
We're both going to read All the Colors of the Dark, and that one's a pretty chunky book, but there's also 300 chapters in it, so all the chapters are like 2 or 3 pages, which that just sounds like a dream come true.
Yeah. Brendan, you said you're halfway through the Bible. Yes, it is a heavy book in a lot of ways, for sure.
Yes, but that's impressive. nice word.
Yes. And then The Count of Monte Cristo. Okay. Yep. That's a pretty long book, isn't it? I have not read that book, but I've heard good things. So let's see, what's
else? Next?
Okay, I'll talk about, I have 2 more that I'm currently reading, and then you're going to talk about...
I have one more
that
I'm going to be starting soon.
Okay, so this one, Worst Case Scenario by T.J. Newman. I have read her other 2 books so far. So she has Falling and Drowning. I don't know if you've read either of them. I enjoyed Drowning more than I enjoyed Falling, but still both very, very good. I was nervous going into this one because I'm like, it's the same author, but I'm like, can she top like Drowning? Because it was one of my favorite reads, one of my top reads for the entire year of 2023. So I'm like, it has some pretty big shoes to fill. And I will say that I'm not loving it as much as Drowning. I hate to say that because this was actually one of my most anticipated books for the entire year. So I'm not going to say that it's been a disappointment. I wouldn't go that far. But I think I hyped it up a lot in my head and was definitely hoping that it would like live up to the same experience that I felt when I was reading Drowning. And I know that that's hard to do because they're different books. So like they're different stories. And so it is good. It's a book that I do want to keep reading. But I was telling Corey that like with Drowning, I literally like lived for the opportunity where I could like pick up the book again. I'm pretty sure I read it in like 1 to 2 days. Like it was super fast. Didn't want to put it down. I just kept like grabbing for that book. I'm sure I had other books going at the same time too, but I had completely abandoned them so that I could read Drowning. And that's how you know it's like an amazing book. So if you haven't read that one, read that one. But also I am enjoying this one. So we'll see how I feel once I'm completely done. I'm almost at that 50%, or like, right about at that 50% mark. But it's taken me a lot longer to get to 50% on this one than it did on Drowning. And her books are short. They're under 300 pages. So they're that one, that even better sweet spot that I was saying that they do come in at under 300. I don't know. Oh, no, I lied. This one is over 300, but not by much. And her other two, I believe, are under 300 by at least a little bit. But what's really cool is she used to be a flight attendant. So that's why I think she brings something really unique to her novels, because she has firsthand experience in like what it's like to be flying all the time and being trained on like what you do in certain situations. She was even writing, I believe, her first or second book like while she was like on a plane, like like and kind of like, not creepy isn't the right word, but kind of scary, you know. This is like she's writing about things that could actually happen, and obviously I'm sure she was hoping she would never actually experience it and it would be completely fictional and stay in her fictional world, but to be writing about those things while she was like on a plane. And I actually love flying. I'm not really afraid of flying, and reading these books hasn't changed my perspective on that, but definitely check her out if you have not read anything by her.
Lauren said maybe she should read this on her trip. She's going on a plane tomorrow.
Oh, there you go. I don't know.
I was telling Katie that I saw people on social media reading this book on a plane, and I was like, I don't know if I could do that.
Don't know about that, yeah.
But if it doesn't bother you.
If it doesn't bother you, you go for it.
Because all of her books are about plane crashes. But,
So yeah, the difference with this one is that most of the action takes place not on the plane. So no spoiler alert, but this plane crashes like at the very beginning of the book. So you know, you're gonna know. I'm not giving anything away. I think it even says it in the description. And so it causes catastrophe, obviously. And the sad part is you know pretty quickly that the people on the plane don't survive. So it's not about the people on the plane. It's about the people on land. So, and maybe that's why I'm not liking it as much, because I thought she did that so well on like, it's about the people on the plane for both the first and the second book. So she's just kind of changed it up a little bit, which isn't bad. It's just like, you know, maybe I just preferred the other stories more. So,
So where are you going, Lauren? You're seeing your favorite band. Who's that?
Oh,
awesome.
yeah.
I got a question here from the one and only Izzy. Has there ever been a book you have been disappointed in, or a book you thought was better than was expected?
Oh, that's a good question.
Ooh, that is an excellent question.
That's hard, because a lot of times we get time to think about these questions that Nicole asks a lot, and now we're being put on the spot. So I might have to think about it. Either both ways. I guess it could be this one that I'm feeling slightly disappointed in, but again, I haven't finished it, so I can't say with, you know, full certainty how I'm gonna feel. Because sometimes, like, when a book gets further in, then I'm like into it, or I'll change my mood on it simply because of the ending. Like, if I thought the ending was epic, or, you know, I felt a lot like it was emotional for me, then I end up overall being like, yeah, I loved the book, you know. So,
and you were very hyped up for the book.
But I was very excited.
So sometimes you get so hyped up that you have unrealistic expectations, because her last book, Drowning, was great. I read that one too. It was exciting. It was a great book. But
I'm trying to think of ones.
I have not had many yet, because I love a lot of books. I'm like the most generous reviewer of books, because I could never write a book. And people who can write books are impressive. So
I think I have one, because it was recent. I read Carly Fortune's second book, so I don't know if there are any Carly Fortune fans. I've not read her first, so I need to go back and do that. But I'm running out of summer, so it may be waiting until next summer. But every summer after is her first book. I heard very good things about that one. But then I read her sophomore book, Meet Me at the Lake. And I thought it was like, okay, like when I was giving star ratings, I don't do that anymore, but when I did give it 4 stars, so that's a really good rating. I did like it. But I think it was one of those ones where I was expecting it to be funny for some reason, and it's because I probably was reading a ton of rom-coms at the time, and this was my first introduction to her, so I obviously didn't know what kinds of books she wrote, and she writes more on the serious side, so which is totally fine. I do like her writing a lot. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll give her a chance though, like with another book. And so she came out with This Summer Will Be Different. Loved that book. Like loved it so much. And we just talked about it with my virtual book club that I just started. So that was really, really fun because I feel like collectively we all really enjoyed it. I just couldn't stop smiling during that meeting because it's just, I love talking about books, obviously. No surprise there. But just when like everybody really liked it, that makes me so happy because it's not like I have any control over that, or I'm not the author. I didn't write the book, but I feel bad sometimes like with my in-person book club where I'm like, I feel like it's like my fault. Like if people didn't like it, and my friend is always like, did you write the book, Katie? No, you didn't. Like you have no, like you don't know. Like we're all just basing it off the description of the book and it looks good and
It's true.
it may not be good. Like it may not live up to our expectations and that's okay. But no, I absolutely loved that book. So I'm even that much more excited to read her first one. So I guess what I'm saying is like based off her second book, which I did enjoy, I wasn't sure how I would feel about her next book. Because I'm like, if it's similar to that one, I might just kind of be about it. But it was a completely different story. And I did feel like she put some more humor into it, which I enjoyed. And it had an aspect where it wasn't just based on like a guy and a girl. It was also like friend love. So I loved that aspect where it was, girl best friends. So yeah, just like focused on friendship too.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you can tell, I loved it a lot.
All right. So Lauren said she's going to California to see 21 Pilots. Ooh, that's cool.
Okay.
Where do you live now? And she's hoping to not spend all of her money at the 5 indie bookstores, a half-price books, and 2 barns.
Good luck. Godspeed.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to do it. So. And then the one and only Izzy is she wants to be a journalist and an author when I grow up. Well, that's awesome. How old are you? You don't have to tell us if you don't want to. All right.
Oh, go back.
Nicole, what book do you recommend to get out of a slump? Preferably a thriller. Whew. Yes.
So I feel like the one that got me out of a slump somewhat recently was Hidden Pictures by Jason Recolak. Yeah, I really enjoyed that one, and he has a new one coming out, I believe, in October. So I'm gonna be really excited to read that one. But Hidden Pictures is also cool because it has actual pictures in it. So like there's some creepy drawings in it. So that was a fun aspect. But I felt like it was a pretty like easy read for me. I liked the story. I felt like the ending was shocking. I read some mixed reviews about it after I finished it. But on Goodreads, it's like above a 4, like for the average rating. So I think that's pretty good. But you're gonna have some, some different. I don't want to call them negative because everybody has their different perspectives on books. But I just was like, that was not my experience reading it. So I don't know. You just got to read it for yourself, I guess. But that was maybe the one I'd recommend.
And Nicole, we love Geneva Rose. We've talked a lot of her books, but those are great.
Any of her books, if you haven't read,
Home is Where the Bodies Are. You shouldn't have come here. The Perfect Marriage.
Yep.
Those are all excellent, and they're fast paced, and they're gonna keep you like gripped to it for real.
And yes, virtual book club. Loved that you joined us for that. And yes, Corey does plan on reading the book too. We're gonna have to share our copy because I didn't get 2 copies.
Yes,
so.
I'm going to be joining the
we'll
next.
Like 2 different bookmarks or something. If we're not, if we're both reading it at the same time, or maybe we'll take turns. I don't know, but Corey does plan on reading it.
Yeah, I plan to read the next one, so I will be there. My family lives in California, and my dogs, too. Okay.
So you're visiting them. Okay.
Oh, Izzy's a sophomore in high school. That's awesome.
Hidden Pictures reminded you a lot of the movie Smile. Okay. Oh my gosh, that movie, by the way,
terrifying.
looks terrifying. And there was a second one. I just saw the preview for the second one when I went to see It Ends With Us recently. And I was like, oh, no, nope, won't be seeing that, and definitely don't want to see the first one. We were discussing this, that I feel like for some reason reading thrillers and horror doesn't bother me as much as seeing it. Like, I really struggle with, like, horror, creepy movies, because I just feel like when you're, like, visually experiencing it, not that you don't visualize things when you're reading.
You can see them your own way, though.
I don't know, I might be too much of a chicken to watch those ones.
Seeing it.
You can't wait for the sequel. You go, girl. You have fun with that, but...
Yeah, you can imagine it the way you want. Yep, seeing it is a nightmare fuel, Brendan said.
It for sure is.
Yeah, so you can make your brain see what you want to see.
Right, when you're reading it. So I feel like, yes, I can do thrillers and horror reading, but there was a time when I liked creepy movies, and I feel like that time has just passed now.
That's a good segue to my next book. Let's do it. So we get so many people asking us if we read Stephen King. And the answer as of now is no, we haven't yet. But I did buy my first Stephen King book. And as some people know what I'm talking about, which one it is. But it is Misery by Stephen King. So I did a lot of research on Stephen King. I followed some of the accounts that I follow and see what they thought would be a good first Stephen King book to read. And it is this one. Was probably the most recommended, Misery. In our Instagram poll, highly thought this one would be a great one to read too. So I was going to wait till October to read it, but I'm too ready to read it. So I just bought it last month, so I'm reading it like...
No, like recently.
Yeah.
You bought it this month.
That's even worse,
So,
yeah.
I don't know.
But, and my reasoning is, if I like it, I'll probably want to read another Stephen King book like around Halloween. So I think that's my reasoning. So or I just want to read it, which I can admit to as well. But... I'm going to check this. This is going to be my next read as well, along with The Goldfinch. I will be reading 4 books again. And I thought, I don't know, I'm excited. This one sounds so good. I'm not huge into horror yet. I'm hoping to. We have picking up a lot of horror books.
Yeah.
We just did a video on here, if you saw it, kind of some of the books we're going to be reading in fall.
And Nicole said that she's excited to hear what we think of Incidents Around the House.
Yeah.
You've read it? Yeah, she said the imagery I pictured while reading that was horrifying.
Yeah, that one looks like a nightmare.
I'm probably going to have nightmares.
Nightmare of a book.
Might have to read that one during the day. Not going to lie, but we'll see. And then somebody else, go back. Oh, right here. What is your least favorite genre and favorite genre? That's a good question.
Both in the thrillers, I would say.
Yeah, my top 2 are definitely thrillers and rom-coms. So I would say I probably like them equally at this point. It's hard to pick between the two. For the longest time, I was a thriller junkie, and I didn't really read much beyond that. But I've really gotten into rom-coms for sure lately. My least favorite genre, I want to say historical fiction, but probably not, because I have read a couple good historical fiction books, and it's a genre I actually want to get more into. I think it just has to be the right book for me. But I'd probably say sci-fi or I don't know, dystopian, type, that kind of stuff is not really my jam. Post-apocalyptic, yeah, I don't know. And I can't say fantasy because I feel like that's another genre I'd like to get more into. So it's not one that I'm I don't like it. It's just one that I'd like to get more into. But I dipped my toes in it with Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, but that was more of the romantasy, and so I think I was into it that much more because it had a romantic story involved. But I mean, come on, dragons, and it was epic and exciting, and so I'm I could see myself getting more into some fantasy books. I don't think it would become a favorite genre for me, but I'm definitely open to it. So that's my answer.
Oh, Laura asked if we ever won a Goodreads giveaway. Katie just won one recently.
I just won one, and I had entered, I don't even know how many. And so I was starting to think it didn't actually happen. I'm do people actually win these, or is it just a joke?
I entered 50 today.
So yeah, I did. I won a Sarah Adams book, so I'm really excited. I don't think it'll come for a really long time, and they do warn you about that, but I'll have plenty of time then to scoop up the first one in the series and read that. Probably even before the second one arrives on my doorstep. But I think you said, Nicole, that you guys are reading it right now for your other virtual book club. I think. Which one is first in that series? There's The Enemy and The Match. So let me know. But I think I won The Enemy, which I think is book 2. But correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, Sally asked if you read The Nightingale, and that's one you're going to be reading soon.
I have not,
yes.
And it is one that I plan on reading as one of my first fall books. I definitely want to read a ton of thrillers and scary books, but I like those The Nightingale wouldn't be considered cozy, but I like cozy reads too, but then I just feel even the cover just feels fall to me for some reason. And I've been putting it off for way too long. So no matter what the season, it's time for me to finally tackle it. And like he was saying with the Goldfinch, the Nightingale has intimidated me because of how long it is. But I have heard nothing but excellent things. I plan on reading Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna before the Nightingale. So I'll read 2 Kristen Hanna books, probably pretty close. I would love to squeeze the women in before the end of the year too. So we will see if that happens, but I've heard that is an incredible book as well. So I don't know why I've been putting it off for so long, but I think Kristen Hanna will be great.
Lauren said she can give you some historical fiction recs on Insta.
Oh, yes, please do.
Yeah, we'd love to hear them. That'd be great. Brandon said George Orwell is my favorite, but it's depressing and also so moved on from dystopia as I get older. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think we have all read 1984.
I don't think I did, actually.
Oh, well.
Nope. We were probably in different, actually, I know for a fact, we were in different English classes in high school. We went to the same high school, if we haven't shared that before. But we did not date in high school. I wish we would have, but we didn't start dating until after, but did go to the same place. And yeah, I think we were maybe in like a class together. Our school was pretty big.
Our graduating class was like 600 kids. So.
Yeah. So we didn't always cross paths, but.
So Nicole said she's reading The Match.
Yeah, The Enemy is the second book. Okay, so I won the second book, so I'm going to need to secure a copy of The Match, because I can't just have the second book and not have the first one.
Stephen King's fairy tale was good, not horrific. Oh, thank you.
How good was Iron Flame and Fourth Wing? I would say that Fourth Wing lived up to the hype for me. So maybe somebody asked earlier, that might have been a book that exceeded my expectations, because I think I went into it being like, is this just a hyped book? And like, I'm not going to like it as much as everybody is saying. And of course, like I said, I'm not big into fantasy. So I was just like, am I just not going to like this, or I'm not going to get it? Like what everybody was saying. So I was pleased to say that it 100% lived up to the hype and even exceeded my expectations. So I loved it. I would say give it a try. It has quite a bit of spice in it, so I will say that. I never know anybody's preference on that, so I like to kind of say it as a content warning. I would not be able to tell you what chapters that was in, because it normally doesn't bother me all too much, or I'll skim things if I'm just like, okay, let's keep moving. And then, let's see, Iron Flame. Oh, and Fourth Wing, by the way, has a very jaw-dropping ending. I will say that. I was like, are you kidding me? But good thing I waited longer than everybody else to read it, because then her second book was like coming out really soon, so I didn't have to wait very long to read the sequel. I did not like Iron Flame as much as Fourth Wing, but I still thought it was a really solid book. I felt like it was maybe verging on too long. It could have used a little bit of editing. Like it could have been cut down a little bit. But I felt like that was another one that I liked more than I thought I would, because I kept hearing reviews of people who had read it before me, and they were like, I'm not even going to continue in the series. And I was like, oh, interesting, because I still liked it a lot, and I'm definitely invested in the series, but I did like Fourth Wing more. So, and they are turning it into a TV series, I believe, on Prime. So I'm going to be excited to watch that whenever that happens.
Interesting. I'm not sure if I'll get to those.
So yeah, I'm a fan. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if Corey will ever.
I don't know.
Ever choose
fantasy
to pick
probably
those up,
would be that genre that I won't. I'm not sure about. Maybe something. If I got a good recommendation.
Maybe you'll watch the series with me.
Yeah, I'm not sure about reading.
Jodi Picoult. Oh my gosh, she's almost all I would ever read until like I became book obsessed. I would say like before I met Corey and like early in our dating years, I was reading a lot of her books, and Nicholas Sparks. So it was like both Jodi Picoult and Nicholas Sparks. But yeah, I kind of moved away from that at some point, but like I know that she has some that I still have not read, but I read a lot of her books. One of my very favorite books to this day still is My Sister's Keeper by her. So yeah, I've read that one more than once for sure. And then one by her that came out kind of a while ago now, but it wasn't on my radar until more recently was what is it called? Small Great Things, I think is what it was called. Loved that book. That was very good. That one I did like a combination of reading the physical book and doing it on audio, and I really liked the audio on that one. So that was a fiction book that I did do on audio. But yeah, one that I have on my shelf that I'm excited to read by her that I should put in or should like move up on my TBR is Mad Honey. So I found that one in a little free library, so that was a good find. But yeah, thanks for asking. I do like Jodi Picoult. I just kind of went away from her books for a while because I got distracted by shiny new things, I guess you could say.
Yeah, the shelf behind me here has a lot of her books on it. So.
Yeah, it does have a few. I did give some to my mom, who I don't think she had read those ones. I was happy to pass those along, but I do still have a few from her.
Yeah, the one and only Izzy said, "How good is God of the Woods?" Well,
oh, look at that! It's on my lap.
Yeah.
I'm very much enjoying it. I am not like terribly far into it, but it is kind of a bigger book. Let me see how many pages it is. It's verging on that 500 mark, so kind of a big one. Big for me, for sure. The one thing that I could say that maybe somebody might not like about it is that it jumps around a bunch, like with the timeline. But I find that I'm able to follow it okay. But that's something that I like in books. Like that doesn't bother me, but I know it might bother some people, but I have been able to follow. And then there are a lot of characters. So I will say that would maybe be the only negative thing that I have to say about it so far is I do feel like there are a lot of characters. So it's just kind of trying to keep track of those characters. Yeah. But I feel like now that I'm getting more into it, I'm like, okay, yeah, now I remember where that person came from or what their story is. So it's a lot of character development. But I feel like it's still paced well enough that I'm not bored. So that's good, because that's kind of how I felt during Middle of the Night. You know, that was a long time ago now, at the beginning of this episode that we talked about that one. But I would say this is living up to the hype so far for me, because this is a very buzzed about book. I think it falls into the literary fiction category, but also like mystery. It's not a thriller. Mystery, lit fic. Kind of a chunky book. But yeah, I'm excited to get even further in. And it's got like a really cool cover too. Yeah. I really like the cover.
I'll be reading that one for sure. I know Jimmy Fallon's book club just read that one. So I always say that because I like Jimmy Fallon. Brendan said, "I love the lights in your bookshelves, BT Dubs." Well, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
These are pretty new. We just got these. They're antique. We live in a 1928 house, so we like to buy antique stuff to match it with a mix of modern, industrial, but that's cool.
Let's see what else.
Lauren said she sent a message with some recs for us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do either of us keep a book review journal? So I actually keep thinking about this because my Bible and like a little notebook sit on top of this journal that I bought at the beginning of this year. And I thought, I'm going to be so great about journaling after every single book that I read this year. It was like a, New Year's resolution that I made for myself. I don't really do resolutions, if I'm being honest. I set intentions. I feel like intentions, I like that word a little bit better than resolutions, but I'm like, I'm going to be, I'm going to take my time more after my books and sit with it longer and write about it. And I kind of stopped doing that. Like, I don't even know at what point during this year. I was really honestly good with it for like a few months there. But I think at the rate that I read really fast and I move on to another book really quickly. And it's not because I didn't love the book I just finished. It's just that there's so many great books out there and I want to read them all. So like, I just think I don't know, that's the word I'm looking for. My immediate reaction is to just like move on. All right, I'm ready for the next book. And so I don't write about it, but I did enjoy doing that in like the first half of the year. So now that you ask that, it does make me want to go back and like reflect on maybe like a couple of the books I read more recently, since some of the others might be harder for me to sit and journal on because it was a while ago that I finished them. But I do think it's a really nice practice if you can like keep up with it.
So I wanted to get to a question we had from last episode that I said we'd answer on this live episode. It is from Catherine Kelly, ZZ5RY. She asked, do you ever go back and reread any of the books you've purchased over the years? If so, what is your favorite?
That's a good question. And I have an answer, actually, because if you had asked this like at the very beginning of this year, I would have said no, I don't reread books. I have a hard time because like I think just like I previously said, there's so many great books out there that even if I loved one, I'm like, well, I'm probably gonna love the next one. So I gotta read something else. But I have now read Funny Story by Emily Henry twice this year and did it like really close together. So I read it in April when it came out, and then I read it again in June. And I think like I think a big reason why I picked it up a second time, I mean, I loved it, but it helped that I was going to Michigan in June. So some of you maybe, if you've been watching our whole journey, you maybe caught the episode when I was talking about going and when I came back from Mackinac Island in Michigan. So I got to go do that with Corey's mom and his sisters in June, and it was a delightful trip. I still think about it. I'm going to think about that trip for a long time because it was just magical and it was really kind. His parents paid for all of us to go. So it was just a really generous gift. And if you have not been there, I would say move that to like your, travel bucket list. I would love to take Corey, and we could go as a couple at some point. It was a fun girls trip, but I would love to take Corey. But yeah, the book Funny Story, if you've not read it, it does take place in Michigan, in a fictional place in Michigan. But I was like, oh, this would be like a great book to bring since I'm going to Michigan. So it just added that extra feel for me. And it was really fun to read it in Michigan. And I found out that Emily Henry is actually from Michigan originally too. So that was kind of cool, but she's a favorite author for me for sure. And I want to read it again, if I'm being perfectly honest. I don't know if I'll read it again this year, but probably next year. I think that is going to be one of my goals for next year, since I don't do a lot of rereading, is to go back and read all of her books next year. So I'd start at like her first book, and work my way through. Not that you need to read them in any particular order, because hers are not like interconnected with characters and stuff like that. Abby Jimenez does do that. She has kind of some connections there. But Emily Henry's are all standalone books. But yeah, so I've read that one twice this year.
Yeah, so Lauren said she's getting up at 2 a.m. So she's going to head out.
Okay.
So have fun in California.
Yeah.
Say hi to the 21 Pilots for me.
Yeah,
and
sleep well, and thanks for joining in.
I'll also say, buy all the books you want. You deserve it.
Nicole, Funny Story, LOL.
She brings up Funny Story in every episode.
I talk about it too much.
It's an inside joke. She knew it was going to happen.
Did we have anything else? Yeah, I knew you'd say Funny Story. Yeah.
Classic.
Longest book you've read versus the shortest book you've read. I like that. Shortest book I've read. Oh gosh. Quite possibly the collection of short stories that I just read recently. I'm trying to think of where that came in, but I feel like it was under 200 pages. So that was a pretty short book. And it was short stories, so that makes sense.
Longest.
Versus the longest.
Well, I'm about to read my longest book,
Yeah,
The Goldfinch.
there you go.
So we'll see about that. And then...
Shortest book?
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't read many super short books yet.
I mean, less than 300 pages is pretty short, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. Anywhere between 200 and
I'm going to be reading
short.
John Green's Looking for Alaska pretty soon. That's a shorter book. Or that book by T. Kingfisher.
Oh, that one's real.
The retelling of...
The
Edgar
House
Allan
of the...
Poe. Yeah.
The what? The Fall of...
Fall of the
The Fall of the House
yes.
of
Usher. Yes. Wow.
You can laugh at us botching that completely.
Went excellent.
Talk about creepy. We did watch the Netflix series of that, and it was pretty disturbing.
It was interesting.
But it was really good. But yeah, now we're both going to read that like little novella.
Yeah, a little novella. Or
whatever you want. I mean, it's pretty short, so I think it is a novella.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that might be all we have. If anybody else has any more questions before we sign off, or you want to share some book recommendations,
any quick questions for you? What are you drinking?
Yeah.
What
are you snacking on?
We have a recipe for our spicy margaritas in the description if you want to make them yourself. They're real good. Pretty spicy.
Cassie said she's in a slump. I've read back-to-back 5 stars, and now nothing is working for me. Okay. What genre do you typically like? Because I would want to recommend something in that genre, unless you don't really care. Because, I feel like I've almost become an equal opportunist. I will read almost anything. I don't know. I've gotten to a point in my life that, I feel like that question was asked about, like, least favorite and favorite genre. But I have broadened my horizons so much that I'm more open to reading most anything, But But yeah, if you can give us some direction on there. Otherwise, a book that I honestly recommend to everyone. I mean, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm not stereotyping at all because Corey here clearly reads some rom-coms. It doesn't mean that only women like would enjoy rom-coms. So I would say even for men, if they want to explore the genre. So when I say that I'd recommend it to everyone, I really would. Is called The Good Part by Sophie Cousins. I discovered that book last year, and that was like one of my absolute favorite books of the year. It was right up there with yours truly by Abby Jimenez, but it was such a feel-good book. I wouldn't even necessarily categorize it as a rom-com. It was just like contemporary fiction is kind of how I felt that it was, because it wasn't entirely focused on the romance of the book, which I ended up loving, because it was just about a woman really finding herself and finding what's most important in life and embracing that and everything. It was just like a book that I wanted to hug when I was done with it. So talk about rereading books. That is a book that I actually do really want to reread, and I think I'll do that before the year closes out, because I loved it so much. I recommended it so many times.
She said anything but horror, high fantasy, or nonfiction.
Anything but horror, high fantasy. Okay. So yeah, The Good Part would fall into that category. Drowning, I was talking about earlier, is a really propulsive thriller that I feel like it'll keep you on the edge of your seat and you won't want to put it down. At least that's how I felt. I know that's not everybody's reading experience is different. So I can't say 100% that's what it will do for you, but it could be a good book to try. And it's on the shorter side with it being under 300 pages. So that could be a good one to dive into. I'm trying to think of anything else that would help you get out of a slump. Hidden Pictures that I mentioned earlier, which you said, okay. I wouldn't necessarily call that a horror book. I think it does fall more into the thriller category. Sally, thanks so much for your content. You both are so personable and easy to relate to. Love your account. Thank you so much. That means a lot. How do you feel about Unbroken? I have not read that book before, so I'm going to have to look that one up, and then I can let you know. But yeah, if there aren't any other questions for now, I think we'll sign off.
We've gone a little long.
We've been on here for a while, which we kind of expected would happen. So that's great.
Nicole asked if the good part is magical realism.
Yes, because it's like a time travel type book. I believe Sophie Cousins said that she was somewhat inspired by like the movie Big, if you've seen that.
With Tom Hanks.
Yeah, with Tom Hanks. I feel like she did say that. Or maybe I was reading reviews and people were saying that it gave them vibes of that. So yeah, it's kind of like a or 13 Going on 30. That was the one that I thought of, the movie 13 Going on 30. I just felt like it was such a delightful book. I didn't want it to end. I very much related to the main character. She is a mom, so you don't have to be a mom. Well, I don't want to give anything away, but she's like not a mom and then a mom at some point in the book, so I'll tell you that much. And I am a mom, so I feel like I could relate to it on that level. But you don't have to be a parent to have big feelings about the book and really get the overall message of the book. But yeah, I can't even remember, like, I don't even know how many times I've recommended that book on social media. I feel like it's appeared in my feed quite a lot. So yeah, I would definitely suggest it.
Yeah, well, she said you might enjoy Woke Up Like This. She said that one's just like 13 Going on 30.
Okay,
so
okay, yeah, I'll have to check that out. I think that when I read that book last year, that's what kind of did officially get me on a magical realism kick, where I really wanted to start reading more magical realism books in general. So
yeah, another recommendation for you, Cassie, is one we just recommended to our friend who's picking up from us soon, is All the Dark Places by Terry Parlato. We both read that one, and that was one of those books that I think I'd recommend to someone asking for a thriller, just because it was so gripping and hard to not read.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Really good. A lot of people in the mix of whodunit, so it's a true whodunit, and the ending was crazy.
I didn't have it figured out, honestly.
I had no
I had different
idea.
guesses of people, and yeah, up until the end.
Definitely check that one if you're into any thrillers, like whodunit thrillers, because that one will blow your mind whole in a good way.
Yeah.
We just recommended that to a friend, and she's picking it up soon, so hopefully she likes it. But
Thank you for dedicating so much time to us. It was lovely to spend a Friday night with you both. It was lovely to spend a Friday night with you too, Nicole. One of these days we're gonna have to meet in person. I mean, New York is on my bucket list. You're in New York, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, we're here in Wisconsin. I don't know. I feel like our weather can sometimes be similar, so it's not like inviting her to like a blizzard when you also probably experience similar conditions in the wintertime. But if we do a non-winter trip, maybe that would be preferable. But
if you like this, we can definitely do it again. We'll try to figure out this screen situation
we'll have to
so
look
we can
into that.
turn
So
it
it can
the other
be
way.
the other way?
So we're not like doing this kind of a thing. But this is our first live stream, so we
so
we're
thanks
trying to
for
figure out what we were doing.
hanging in with us.
Hopefully
At
it
least
went
we were
well.
able to go live and talk to you all. So
Yes.
that's what's important.
But if you don't subscribe to our channel, make sure you subscribe. We do an episode pretty much every week. So next week we'll do episode 26.
Yep.
We can start mixing more live shows if that's what you guys want. We had a good 10 or 12 people tuning in.
Yeah, we had more than that, and then it like decreased, but then we kept a steady,
It started off a little. I was distracted at first because there's some weird comments coming in at first.
We're like, okay.
I was a little thrown off during my first review, but that
it happens.
That tamed down, so I'm glad that
Yeah.
tamed down.
But it was fun hanging out with you all, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching.
If we can figure out how to shut this off now.